Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am officially unhinged. So, as you may know, I'm a big Marvel fan. I mean, check the shirt out. I'm obsessed with Marvel. It's one of my biggest issues, my biggest red flags. I don't like it. I don't like how big of a personality trait it is, but it is. And recently, in December, I watched Spider-Man No Way Home, as I'm sure more than half the population of the entire Earth has watched that movie. And ever since then, it's been on my mind. I can't get it out, and it's just like, it's a constant thought in my head. So, I am back at college, and I thought I would use my time back at college in the best possible way by making a presentation of who is the best Spider-Man, because it's been a lot of debate on the interwebs, and I'm just here to settle it, okay? Spider-Man's been on my mind 24/7, and I'm just ready to kind of educate the people on the phenomenon that is Spider-Man. So this presentation is solely based on the qualities of Spider-Man and Peter Parker. So it's not going to be based on looks or attractiveness. I want to be very unbiased in this analysis. Everyone has their preferences when it comes to attractiveness. Attractiveness does not mean that they're the best Spider-Man or Peter Parker. You know what I'm saying? So although they are all very attractive to many people, I'm here just to keep it straight to the facts, straight to the personality. With that being said, let's dive deep into this in-depth analysis of who is the best Spider-Man. So, welcome to Who is the Best Spider-Man, an in-depth analysis. I have 3 different categories for this grading scale. So the first round is Best Peter Parker. So that's going to be graded on who is the best Peter Parker without the suit, so not Spider-Man. The second round is who is the best Spider-Man, that is just solely with the suit on. And then the third round is the overall best Peter Parker to Spider-Man ratio. So, let's begin. I'm going to minimize myself so we can get the full view. Round 1 is Best Peter Parker, so this is on a 30-point grading scale. We have awkwardness for up to 10 points, intelligence up to 10 points, a glow up, which is, when they receive their Spider-Man powers, but, the Peter Parker glow up, and inventiveness. So, first Peter Parker we are analyzing is Tobey Maguire, the OG, my bae, so don't test me. We have awkwardness. That's a good 10 points. And I'm not trying to be biased, okay, at all. If you've recently watched the original Spider-Man series, it's cringe. It's bad. It's definitely hard to watch without laughing. I did laugh. I did cringe a lot. He's just very awkward, but in a nerdy, fun, dorky way. Everyone loves a good dork once in a while. So I'm giving him 10 points for that. Intelligence, I broke up into 2 categories, social intelligence and academic intelligence, because as we know, not all nerds are socially aware. So I give Tobey's Peter Parker a social score of 2. He has no social awareness, really, which is fine, because he has time to learn. But, it's hard sometimes. Academic is 7. He's a pretty smart guy, helps out a bunch of scientists that then turn on him. Glow up I gave a 3, just because it was just, it wasn't necessarily a huge mental and physical glow up. It was more just a physical glow up. And then inventiveness, I also give a 3. So in total, out of 30 points, he gets a 25 for Peter Parker. Okay. Next Peter Parker is Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker. For awkwardness, I gave 6 points. He's not super awkward, more of a quiet, bad boy nerd, if you will. He goes to a science school, so everyone that goes to that school is a bit of a nerd. If you're going to a science-based, mostly science-focused high school. Just more of a skater boy, not super awkward, a little timid. Intelligence, social is 4. I feel like he has a good rep with the ladies. He has some swagger, I'm not gonna lie. Academic is a 5. That guy's super smart. In the first movie, just very intelligent. Glow up, I would give a 2. It's very subtle. don't come at me, ladies, okay? The glow up he didn't have a huge glow up. But inventiveness, I give a 4. So out of that is a total of 21 points for Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker. And lastly, we have Tom Holland. So Tom Holland's Peter Parker, I give a 7 for awkwardness, just because he has his moments, but he's not as awkward as Tobey. For intelligence, his social intelligence, especially in the first movie, Spider-Man Homecoming, definitely a 2. Does not have a good run with the ladies. Very awkward, very shy when it comes to just social interaction in general. Doesn't really pick up on a lot of social cues, but that's fine. He's like 16 in that movie, supposed to be. And then academic is a 4, just because we don't really see a lot of his intelligence, I would say, in the first movie. I feel like he has a lot of help with Stark Industries, so gotta take that into consideration. But total, I would give a 22 for Tom Holland's Peter Parker. So when we rank them, Tobey Maguire ranks number 1 for Peter Parker. Tom Holland is number 2, and Andrew Garfield is number 3. And honestly, I think these are very valid rankings, just because of the Peter Parker nature is very timid, awkward, dorky. I think Tobey Maguire encapsulates that perfectly. I think Tom Holland is a good mix. Andrew Garfield has a lot of swag to him, but I think he's a bit too swaggy for the stereotypical Peter Parker. I also have their best movies ranked. So Tom Holland's best movie is obviously No Way Home. When it comes to being a Peter Parker, I think he just encapsulates Peter Parker's good heart and intentions. Number 2 is The Amazing Spider-Man. I think for Peter Parker, this is a good look. It's different, but I think it's a good movie for him. And number 3 is the original Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire. I rate that at number 3 just because it's a bit slow. It does set up the plot and sets up the characters and sets up Peter Parker very nicely with Tobey Maguire, but it's just very slow. There's not a lot going on, not very eventful. Moving on to round 2, Best Spider-Man. This is also on a 30-point grading scale. So we have Suit for 10 points, Emotion, which is basically I forget what this is called, but it's emoting underneath the mask. So very much body language, being able to communicate with your body without the mask on for 10 points. And then Swagger for 10 points. I think this is huge. And Swagger can mean just basic Spider-Man montage, this swinging, the web shooting, all of that. Okay, let's get into it. So for first off, analyzing Spider-Man, we have Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. For Suit, I give a 7 just because it's the OG suit, and apparently he made it himself, which we didn't get to see that, but he did make it himself. Emotion, I would give 5. He's 5 points. He's not really super animated when it comes to his body language. He does the duck and rolls, he runs, but it could be more. There could definitely be more emotion in his acting. And then Swagger, I also give 5. He's very quiet. And if you know, Tobey Maguire in person, he's a very quiet person, and I think, he definitely doesn't separate Peter Parker from Spider-Man, which could be a good or a bad thing. So total is 17 points out of 30 for Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. Next, we have Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. For the suit, everyone hates the suit. I don't really like it as well. I think it's very bug-eyed vibes, which is just it's not very sleek. It's very friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and I think it doesn't do Andrew Garfield's rendition of Peter Parker justice. So for that, I give it a 4. Emotion, though, I give it a 9. He's very, very animated, which is very intriguing, and, it keeps your interest, especially when those fighting scenes, and it also just adds some comedic value. And Swagger, I give 7 because he's just, like I said, he's swaggy as Peter Parker or Spider-Man. So, total is 20 points for Andrew Garfield. I forgot to change the heading of this, okay? Spider-Man, Tom Holland, Suit, 9 points. But I also am kind of struggling giving him 9 points because he didn't make it himself. He does have Stark Tech, and it's nanotechnology and all of that, so he does get help, but I think that the suit is still pretty cool, and it's like the best suit out of the franchise. Emotion is 6 points. He does like talk a lot, but he doesn't do a lot of like animated body language. And then swagger is also 6 points, so that gives him a total of 21 points for Spider-Man. So, best Spider-Man ranked, number 1 is Tom Holland, which I feel like is, good. I think he just does a really good job of being Spider-Man. Number 2 is Andrew Garfield. Pretty close with those two. It was difficult to decipher which ones I thought deserved a number 1 spot. And then number 3 is Tobey Maguire. So, number 1, best movie ranked is No Way Home. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is number 2 for their best movies, and then number 3 is Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire. Okay, round 3, let's go. Best Peter Parker to Spider-Man ratio. So this is on a 50-point grading scale. So we have suit and mannerisms up to 15 points. Swagger is up to 10 points. Inventiveness overall as Spider-Man and Peter Parker is 10 points. And in-action commentary is 5 points. So this is like what they say in the fight scenes when they're fighting their bad guys. And then personality, both in and out of the suit, is 10 points. So, starting off again with Tobey Maguire, I would say the suit and mannerisms is 8 points. The suit definitely ranks higher than the mannerisms just because it's just not animated, like I said. But that's fine. We love Tobey. Swagger is 6 points. I think it's just going to remain 6 points. Not much to add there. Inventiveness is 7 points. He's not super creative, but he does have his moments. In-action commentary is 2 points. He doesn't really say a lot when he's fighting. And then personality, both in and out of the suit, is 7 points. So Tobey gets a total of 32 out of 50 points for the Peter Parker to Spider-Man ratio. Next is Andrew Garfield. Suit and mannerisms is 9 points. Like I said, very animated, keeps it interesting when this mask is on. Swagger is 7 points. He does get a little too cocky, which I don't think encapsulates Peter Parker's character as well as it could. I think Peter Parker is very wholesome, and Andrew Garfield just takes it a little too far with the cockiness and the hot-headedness. Inventiveness is 7 points. Pretty good on the fly, creative. In-action commentary is 4 out of 5 points. He says a lot. I genuinely enjoy how much he says. I think it adds to the animatedness of his personality. And then personality both in and out of the suit is 8 points. So he gets a total of 35 out of 50 points for the Peter Parker to Spider-Man ratio. And then lastly, we have Tom Holland. Suit and mannerisms is 8 points. The suit outweighs the mannerisms again in this instance, but it's still pretty good. Swagger is 6. Inventiveness is 6 points. I think he's very inventive, but I also think it just has a lot to do with the Stark Tech, and I'm trying to base it solely on the actor and the actor's portrayal, so I'm trying to stray away from giving him too many points for getting help from Tony Stark. In-action commentary is 5 points. He does a really good job of that. And then personality, both in and out of the suit, again, is 8 points. So Tom gets 33 out of 50 points. So I'm just going to put it out there. I am a very hard critic, but I also think about these movies in high detail, heavy, heavy detail. I take a lot of things into account, not only just the production value of all the movies, but the character portrayal that the actor does. I think about all of the movies. I think about the little minute details, I want this to be as accurate as possible. So if the scores are a little lower than you would typically grade people, I understand if there's frustration. I would be frustrated too. I'd be like, why are the scores higher? But I also I'm doing the people a service. So I do have to be super critical. I can't let my personal emotions get in the way of my scores. So that's why my scores may be a little lower than everyone else's, but I genuinely stick to the criteria and the scoring that I'm giving all 3 Spider-Men. So the best Peter Parker to Spider-Man ratio, number 1 is Andrew Garfield, balances both of them very well. Tom Holland is next. They're very close again. I feel like they could be interchangeable depending on the movie that we're looking at. And then number 3 is Tobey Maguire. Alrighty, so best Spider-Man ranked Andrew Garfield is number 2 as Spider-Man and then number 3 as Peter Parker. Tobey Maguire is number 1 as Peter Parker and number 3 as Spider-Man. And Tom Holland is number 1 as Spider-Man and number 2 as Peter Parker. So let's get into our winner of who is the best Spider-Man. I am going to say that the best Spider-Man is Andrew Garfield. This is tough because a lot of people hated on Andrew Garfield, but this is genuinely, like, his Spider-Man stuck with me throughout my, like, childhood. After viewing it, I could remember it very vividly, and for a long time when I thought of Spider-Man, I would think of Andrew Garfield even after Tom Holland's movies. I think after rewatching Tobey Maguire, it is very clear who is the best Peter Parker, but when we're talking about just overall balancing the morale, the intention of Peter Parker, and then also the swagger and the inventiveness and creativeness of Spider-Man, I think Andrew Garfield is the best actor to have successfully merged the two and made them very distinct when the mask is on versus when the mask is off. I mean, we're not done yet. We have some honorable mentions. Honorable mention, best alter ego is obviously Bully Maguire when he has the black suit on in Spider-Man 3. We can all agree this is just, I don't really understand why this was put into the movie, but Bully Maguire it's one of the best Spider-Man moments of history. Next honorable mention is most growth. That's Tom Holland. We've seen Tom Holland grow so much, just mentally and physically. It's basically been growing up with him if you're like a teenager. And I think he's the best team player out of all the Spider-Man. He's worked with the Avengers. He brought all the 3 Spider-Men together in No Way Home. I think it's just, chef's kiss. He has just grown a lot through the franchise and really shaped who Spider-Man is and what we think of Spider-Man. And that is my in-depth analysis of who is the best Spider-Man. Alrighty, so that was my in-depth analysis of who is the best Spider-Man. If you liked it, please give it a like. I spent so much time on this, and if you disagree or agree with me, please let me know down in the comments. I'd really like to just start a conversation because I can't get Spider-Man out of my head. It's honestly, it's really upsetting. Like, please help. If you have any tips of how to get over the Spider-Man No Way Home hangover, please let me know because it's been almost a month and I desperately need help. So with that being said, subscribe for more videos like this, and I will catch you soon. Peace.